Alrighty folks, today we're gonna have a bit of an extra serious video, so please forgive me if I get a bit emo. Fair warning, I'm going to be talking about things like feelings, emotions, and a little bit of, wait for it, self-reflection. So please, if that stuff like triggers you or something, do not watch this video. I would like to say that this is not my typical video about some ridiculous homo crap that happened to me with some crazy clickbaity looking thumbnail that's sadly like something very, very true that actually happened to me. Still, this feels like a very important thing that I want to get off of my chest because it's something that's been bothering me for a very long time, man. Yeah, so let's just jump into it, shall we? So, as a bit of context, okay, growing up, I was always a bit of a sappy kid, okay? Since very early childhood, I always remember sort of having some sort of depression or something adjacent to that. Like, I always have very vivid memories of, being outside, kicking a ball around, and just feeling sad for basically no reason whatsoever. And keep in mind, this is before all the emo crap in my teen years or whatever. Like, this is super early stuff, man. But it feels like since then, like since my early childhood, there has always been something kind of off, okay? I get home after the best day of my life, and for some reason, I feel like crap, and I do not know why. It is really, really strange to me, okay? I'm not even really sure what to call it when you felt that way for basically your entire life. I don't know if it's genetic or something. Like what's the terminology for this? Chronic depression? I don't think that's what that is. I think it's something else entirely. I don't even know. Now, in addition to that, okay, in addition to just feeling depressed basically my entire life, I definitely didn't try to hide the fact that I was sad all the time, okay? Look, growing up, I used to cry all of the time, okay? I cried all the way through elementary school, middle school, and through a lot of high school as well. I was just a bit of a crybaby, I guess, okay? Literally, the tiniest things would tip me off and make me cry. It wasn't until I was about 16 or so when I finally cried for the last time. Now, you may be asking yourself, Gato Finklo, what was the last thing that made you cry? And honestly, it's a little bit silly, okay? But I feel like it's a thing that hits really close to home for a lot of people, okay? I was driving with my dad. He was teaching me, and we were going grocery shopping. We're in this parking lot, and there's a pedestrian crossing the street. Me, being the genius that I was, I originally had stopped, okay? But I was kind of like taking my foot off of the brake in anticipation that he was gonna pick up the pace a little bit. But like, he kind of just like didn't. And I almost ran into him going like 1 mile per hour. So basically he almost died is what we're getting at, okay? And my dad was not happy about that at all. He screamed at me to brake, then he told me to pull over and do all this stuff, and he gave me the talk of a lifetime, yelling in my right ear the entire time. And let's just say it was not quite fun, and I might have wept just a teeny weeny bit. And by a teeny weeny bit, I mean that was probably the most I had cried in like over 5 years at that point. After that though, okay, I basically never cried ever again. It was like I had completely run out of tears to shed. Like, I don't even really know how to describe it. It's very, very strange, okay? But okay, through all of this, when I'm forgetting how to cry or, whatever, right? I'm also going through even worsening depression. Okay? Feeling worthless, lonely, generally unhappy with myself, I don't know, wishing I had more friends, etc., etc. Typical emo crap that, like, a lot of people tend to go through. And it was just getting increasingly more and more heavy on me. You get what I mean? When I cried for that last time, I just started to feel an increasingly growing sense of numbness. Okay? Sure, I was feeling sad, okay? Like, yeah, alright, nothing really changed in that regard, but I felt kind of, like numb in the way that I was conveying my emotions, okay? And I don't think it's just that I grew out of my crybaby phase and became a real man, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like I just got better at hiding my emotions or whatever, because while all this stuff was happening, I was still really, really wanting to be understood by people. I really wanted to convey my emotions. I wanted people to know that I was sad, or if I was happy, or whatever, dude. I was still extremely sad all the time, but I just started to lose the ability to show people that. You know what I mean? To show people that I was going through something. And it's not that I didn't want people to know. I definitely wanted people to know. I wanted people to help me. I wanted people to console me, and I wanted people to try to understand what I was going through. Call it just a byproduct of me being emo or whatever, okay? But I feel like it was definitely a very real feeling that I was going through. Something that was really plaguing me and making making me feel like crap, okay? You know, a lot of times people talk about, like faking things like depression for attention or something like that. But genuinely, if you feel like you might be faking depression, but you still feel like crap all the time and you still feel like you're sad all the time, I don't think that means that you're faking it. It's still a very real feeling, something that is making you feel awful, okay? And I think it's something you should probably look at, okay? But yeah, after that point where I started to feel this increasingly growing numbness or whatever and sort of indifference, I just found myself wanting to feel something again. I actually started wanting to cry after however many years of not being able to show people that I was sad. And that was a very, very awful feeling that kind of just made me feel even worse. It's like I went from being, this super, sappy kid who would cry all the time to a super sappy adult who couldn't cry at all, even if he wanted to, okay? And, over the years, I've struggled with so much, okay? And I just sometimes get the urge to just let it out and just bawl my eyes out. I want to be consoled by someone, but it feels like I simply can't show my emotions in their purest, rawest form anymore. It's like, no matter how hard I try, lots of things just cannot provoke that response in me. Most things, actually, that used to make me cry all the time don't have any effect on me. And I don't think that's just that I've gotten more mature, because they definitely still make me feel sad, dude. I mean, it's not like I just stopped feeling sad, okay? Like, as a few examples, okay? Like, let's say, for instance, sad movies, okay? The only movie I've ever cried while watching was Castaway, of all things, when I was really freaking little, alright? I've seen other, arguably, way sadder movies in my life, but none of them ever get me, okay? Castaway was that one freaking movie, alright? But even then, I could go back and watch Castaway now and not feel a thing. It's really weird. Additionally, let's say people yell at me, okay? Which is something that would make me cry all the time growing up, all the way up until I was 16, right? Leading up to that big parking lot incident with my dad, people yelling at me just made me feel terrible about myself, because it made me feel like I was doing something wrong and I wanted to do better. I wanted to please people, but when you yell at me, man, it makes me feel terrible, okay? But nowadays it doesn't do anything to me anymore. I mean, I remember getting in some really, really, really tough times with people screaming at me over things that I've done, like mistakes that I've made, and that stuff used to make me cry all the time, but now it just doesn't have an effect on me. It definitely makes me feel very, very sad, but I can't convey that sadness in any way. Of course, there's also the very deep depressions I've been through or whatever, and those also can't make me cry either, even though I've been through so many of them, and they're also very, very rough for me, and they make me do a lot of reflection on who I am as a person, and they make me feel terrible about myself, sometimes even driving me to the point where I don't even want to live anymore. That hasn't been happening lately, by the way. It's mainly a thing from the past, but heck, even near-death experiences aren't enough to make me cry, okay? If you've seen my video where I talk about the car crash that made me question my sexuality, it seems like clickbait, but it's not. It's a real freaking video, real story, all that freaking crap. Alright, I know it sounds outlandish, but whatever. That was a near-death experience for me, and I'll tell you what, the entire time after the fact, I just felt like crap, and I locked myself in my room, and I just, I cried silently, or whatever. Fake smile. It was just, I could not bring myself to cry, even though I wanted to. Nothing I could have done would have brought a single tear to fall from my eye. Now, because of all of this stuff that happens to me, I've needed to opt for a different means of coping. And one of my methods has just been being extremely open about my feelings, okay? My thought process is, if I can't cry to show emotion, why not just give a whole dissertation about what's getting me down, you feel me? I mean, these are the big questions, folks. Are you kidding me? Really, in the grand scheme of things, I just want to be understood, okay? Nobody understands me. If I need to just get a textual account of my feelings to be understood, I think that's okay, alright? Because it can make up for the difference there is, because I can't properly convey my emotions in a way that is very universal. You get what I mean? Like through crying or something. Even then, even though I can get by just fine with this or whatever, I still wish I could just cry normally, because sometimes it would just be easier, than going about it this whole roundabout way and everything like that. You know what I mean? It requires a lot of time and energy to just talk to people about how I feel, because it feels like I'm reading a story to somebody, and it feels like I have to try to convince the person that I'm talking to that I'm being serious. Do you get what I mean? It feels like I've lost the ability to feel traditionally sad, like other people think I don't really care, but I really do try to, okay? I want to care, but it feels like I can't bring my body to show that. Now look, okay, I've been trying to do better with how I show my emotions and everything, right? Obviously, I've been trying to be a lot more open about my feelings to at least gain a bit of understanding from people, and that's one of the main reasons I made this channel to begin with. And honestly, I think it's been helping a lot, okay? I really do think it's been helping me in ways that I can't even really describe with words, or at least not in enough words to fit in this single video, okay? It still hasn't gotten me very much closer to regaining the ability to cry, but it still has been helping me to understand myself and to get people to understand me better. You know what I mean? Also, you know, in general, I've been trying to help people more just to show that I care about them and everything. To show them that I'm not some sort of weird, stoic sort of statue or something that doesn't really feel anything. You get what I mean, right? Overall, it feels like I've been taking a step in a bit of the right direction. Still though, yeah, like it's a long, drawn out process. I don't know if I'm ever actually going to get over this or not, or if I'm ever going to cry ever again in my entire life. I guess time will tell, and I'll see what happens. I don't know, here's hoping. Anywho though, I don't really know if I have very much I want to talk about. I apologize in advance for making this sort of really sappy, depressing video or whatever instead of one of my weird other ones where I talk about something gay. I don't really know. Still though, I hope you enjoyed and everything. Whatever, okay? Moral of the story, all I gotta say is I urge you not to hide yourself away in a box, okay? If you have trouble showing your emotions in one way or the traditional way, then please try to do it in another way. All right, because understanding is 100% the best medicine, okay? Even if it's hard, I could guarantee you that having nobody understand what you're going through is like a million times harder. So you really got to try to get yourself out there just a little bit to try to get some help from people. You feel me? Well, whatever. Okay, anywho though, yeah, before I get going, I want to mention that I have a Discord server now. If you're interested in joining, hanging out, maybe even having a little chat with yours truly, Gato Finglu, then consider joining. The link is in the description. Also, take a look, see here, we got some Gato Finglu fan art. This stuff is crazy. Some of it's awesome. Some of it's a little bit questionable because it was drawn by a very particular member in my Discord server who, let's just say, is a tad bit problematic. I would even go as far as to say she is the most problematic person in the entire server. But yeah, that's just me, whatever. Last but not least, I want to mention that I have a channel membership. It is $5 a month. Take that back, actually. It's $4.99 a month. Whoa, what a deal. Whew. Do not feel obligated to pay for it if you don't want to. I'm just throwing it out there if you feel like you want to support me. But if this is the first video you've watched from me, then pretend I just didn't say that, okay? But yeah, thank you very kindly to everybody who wanted to listen to this little sap story of mine. Thank you very kindly, and without further ado, bye!